Hi everybody, it's June the 3rd, 2014. This is Amanda Ellis of amandaellis.co.uk and Facebook page Angelic Celestial Colours with the Archangel Metatron update for the coming month ahead. Usually when I do these videos, those of you that have watched me before, I don't often have a great idea about what is going to come through or what I'm going to channel. Today is a bit different though, because I do know the subject matter that Metatron wants to talk about this month, which feels very important. And that is revisiting some of the work we did about a year ago, which was looking at the shadow side of our being, which is something that we all have. And usually we try to deny or suppress it. And by denying or suppressing unwanted feelings or emotions or aspects of our personality, what tends to happen is that it makes them bigger and stronger, and they don't go away because they are actually an aspect of who you are. We all have this. And Metatron is really talking how important it is this month to get in touch with and listen to our shadow side and actually what it is trying to show us and what it is trying to tell us. The whole Metatron energy is very much about, in colour terms, black and white. And I've talked about this before, but in terms of the Metatron bottles that I have on my site, it's the black and white energies, and Metatron is both of them. He's about showing us our bright side and also helping us to uncover and look at the darker aspects within our personality that, as I say, we've been suppressing. Why is this important now? I think it's important now because sometimes it feels as though the Ascension process, this process where we are evolving as a world spiritually, is stalling. We can maybe look at our own progress and hopefully feel that we're doing okay and that we're progressing along our spiritual path. But when you look at the wider world, there is still so much violence and bloodshed and war out there and corruption. And you think, when will it ever end? And Metatron is very clearly saying that it'll end when we all actually embrace not only our own personal shadow, but the collective shadow. Because really what the shadow is I'm referring here to a book that I read on holiday. This is the one. It's called The Shadow Effect, and it embraces the teachings of three great teachers, Deepak Chopra, Debbie Ford and Marianne Williamson. I've read it more or less from cover to cover, and the section I particularly personally related to was Deepak Chopra's section, where he looks at the work of Jung and other psychologists and their role in identifying what's called the collective unconscious, which is basically a pool of feelings, thoughts, fears, emotions, that human beings have and that we all dip into, whether we know it or not, because we are all connected. There's that whole thing that no man is an island. We are all connected. And so we are connected into the good and the light, but we're also all connected into the darker side of humanity as well. And when our shadow side gets out of control, and this will manifest in different ways for different people, sometimes it can be very extreme in terms of acts of violence that you do see played out in the news, or it can be in much more subtle ways personally, but still very damaging to the individual person. It may be things such as lust or greed, violation in some respect, addiction is a big one. Any habit and anything that is basically stopping us from shining our light is really the shadow trying to pull us back down. So much energy seems to go into fighting it and trying to dispel it and trying to conquer it. And really what I got from this book and what I got from what Metatron was also talking about over the time I was reading it was it's not about conquering it, it's actually about transcending it. And that's a really important difference in terms of language. Conquer means that, it's done, it's dusted, it's like a stake in the ground, you've sorted it. The point of working with the shadow is that it's a process. It's not something that you can just do overnight. And to be honest, reading the book, I suspect most of our life path and our life journey, most of us are going to struggle to conquer completely our shadow side unless the world can raise its vibration to us to a place where the pool of this collective unconscious is in a much healthier state, because otherwise we're still dipping in and out of that. And it's very hard, and it's actually impossible. And what the book says, it's impossible to be an island and just set yourself up as somebody that is totally unaffected by everything else in the world, and particularly the shadow aspects of the collective world as well. So what do we do? What the book talks about, and I'm going to come on to what Metatron talks about later, but I really just want to do this as an introduction to the subject. Because he's saying to me now, we don't sometimes need to reinvent the wheel. You know, there's very good writers, there's very good philosophers that have already lived on our planet and are still living on our planet that have given us so much information, and we just need to know where to look. This book for me is a really good starting point. As I say, it's called The Shadow Effect. So yes, how do we conquer it? The book talks about a multi-stage approach, and what was lovely for me is that, having not ever been on a workshop to do with the shadow, or not really even having read a book on it up to this point in time, you know, I always feel that Metatron is my greatest teacher. And what was nice is that as I read the book, it was things that I have been dealing with Metatron, and he's been showing me how to heal himself, whether it's through my client work or whether it's through personal development myself. The first big message is about detaching and letting go. Some of you that I know personally are talking to me now about situations in your life where, even if they haven't necessarily changed very much, you are somehow more able to detach and let go from the drama that maybe is played out around you. So that's in your personal life, but also collectively as well. It's about detaching and letting go. The second point that the book raises is also about stopping projection. This ties in very much to a philosophy that's been underpinning lots of my work for many years, which is the whole idea of mirroring. So if you see somebody out there and they're pressing your buttons or they're irritating you, it is actually because they are showing you an aspect of yourself that you need to look at. And obviously there's the great book by Joe Vitale, Zero Limits, which looks at that very thoroughly. And also the colour mirrors system, which I have been teaching for the last 10 years, very much talks about the mirroring aspect as well. So really, I'd like you to think about anybody in your life at the moment who you know does trigger feelings that you don't particularly like about yourself. You know, it might be impatience. It might be mistrust, it might be envy, it could be anger, it could be sadness, it could be anything. You need to be looking at the emotion that that person is triggering within you, and really seeing that as part of yourself, and then healing that part of yourself that is sad or angry or greedy, or whatever the feeling is that's coming to you. Tied in with this is also the thing about letting go of self-judgment, that whatever we are feeling at any one period of time is okay. We live in a universe that is dualistic in nature. We live in a world that makes no sense if we don't have, at the moment anyway, light and dark, and love and hate, and pain and joy. And you think about anything, there is always an opposite to it. You don't actually understand what hope is as a feeling unless you have been in a place of despair. You just don't. You wouldn't have it on your compass. You wouldn't understand what hope felt like. So the way that our planet is still operating at this period in time, even as we raise our consciousness up to 4th and 5th dimensional level, we're still operating on this dualistic mechanism of right and wrong, love and hate, joy and pain. And so if you're experiencing the negative, or what society is labeling the negative emotion, it's trying to tell you something in the same way that joy is trying to tell you something, or love is trying to tell you something. But I tell you what, we're really, really eager to open our ears and listen when it's a happy or a positive feeling or emotion. When it's what we class as negative, it's almost as though our ears just close and we don't want to look at it. What Metatron is encouraging you to do this June is to maybe pick one particular emotion or feeling that you maybe have from time to time. It may be something that you live with day to day, or it may be something that just crops up, is triggered by certain events or certain people. But it's a feeling that you get, or a emotion that you get that you don't particularly like. You don't like to think of yourselves in this way, okay? So, you know, you may be a spiritual person, but you get angry from time to time, and there's a bit of shame that's coming in with that. You know, why am I feeling like this? You know, I don't want to feel like this, but I am. Whatever that feeling is, I'd like you to write it down, whatever that emotion is. And the next time that you feel it, I really want you to go into the story behind it, because it will be about so much more than you think it is. But there will be a scenario that triggers it. So it's the scenario that starts the whole process off. I'll give you an example just to try and bring it to life a little bit. I've always been somebody that likes my own space and my own company. And I remember having my astrology reading done with Steve Judd, and he said something along the lines of, I'm the type of person that if I go a whole day without at least 10 minutes on my own, I'm a bit like a fuse box that sort of misfires and I'm no use to anybody. And it's very, very true. And so I've always found it quite difficult when I go away for long periods of time with groups of people, because I need my own space. And in the past, I suppose this has manifested, I'm really thinking back about 10 years or so when I was married before, and we'd go off for long weekends, and I was fine for a weekend with other people. But after about 48 hours, I could feel these feelings that I didn't particularly like about myself. And they were feelings of impatience and not being in control, and anger, frustration, the need to want to just escape and get away from it all. And, you know, I didn't want to feel like it, but I did. And so having just gone away on holiday with a group of 15 people, I was worried that these feelings were going to come back. And so I thought, okay, just that's the trigger, that's the situation. Look at the emotion behind it. What is the emotion that lies behind that particular thing? And so when I started to look at the emotion that lay behind it, it was really interesting what the story was behind, for example, what I've felt before, which was anger, frustration, or whatever. And it was actually about, I was worried about the need to be perfect the whole time. I was worried about the fact that I could almost maintain it for up to 48 hours and be happy and sociable and, you know, talkative. But after that, I needed time just to sit and be and go and do my own thing. And I was worried about, well, how was I going to be able to do this in a large group? And as soon as I actually listened to that was the reason behind all of this. And also it was very much about the need to be perfect the whole time. As soon as I just looked at that and I thought, okay, I've heard you. I've heard that that's the reason why I sometimes feel this way. What was really interesting was that as soon as I acknowledged it and heard it, the emotions just went. And I had a fantastic holiday. I, you know, was with all the people the whole time. I did not have a problem with it. The point is I'd acknowledged what can be my shadow side that can come up, which is when I can get angry and frustrated in that particular situation. So I hope I'm making sense here, and I hope what I'm doing is trying to illustrate something that you can do for yourself to really look at look at an emotion at a much, much deeper level. Look at a shadow emotion at a much, much deeper level. There's another passage I'd like to read here. Okay, here we go. Having heard your story, be accepting. Tell yourself that you had a valid reason for holding on to the negativity. You had no choice because it was secretly deposited and then remained hidden. Therefore, you did nothing wrong. Your old feelings stuck around to protect you from having the same wound repeated. Make peace with this now, and you have turned a negative into a positive. Fear wasn't holding on to hurt you. It thought you needed to be on guard in case of another hurt. So I think at this point I'd just like to bring Archangel Metatron in, having just sort of introduced the whole subject of the shadow side and the fact that we're all connected into this collective unconsciousness. What can we do to detach, to let go, to also give up self-judgment? And then the last bit that Deepak Chopra talks about in his book is to rebuild our emotional body. Okay, so I'm going to actually spray this midnight spray that's part of the Metatron range. And again, this is interesting in itself. When I made this, a few people saw this, and those of you that have seen the full range on my website know there's a beautiful rainbow selection of colours to choose from. And somebody said to me, why would you have a black bottle in a colour range? Why would you have a black bottle? Why would you do that? And I thought about that and I thought, why not? Why wouldn't you have it? Again, it's this thing about we only want to concentrate on the light and the colour. And of course that is important. Of course it is. That is where the answer lies. But the answer also lies within this. You know, we are the world. We have this super consciousness within ourselves that is both good and bad. This isn't bad. I don't like the word bad. I'll take that back. But it's the side of ourselves that we don't want to acknowledge, that remains hidden. Okay, let's see what Metatron has to say on it. Maybe you'd just like to get yourself grounded, feeling your feet on the floor. Let's just tune in to whatever he has to say to us now. If you could only see the shadow side of yourself as an aspect of you, just as much you as all the other aspects that you are proud of and that you are willing to show the world. The reason why the shadow holds so much power over you personally and over the collective is because it remains hidden. This June, I'm asking each of you to bring your shadow out into the open. There is nothing to fear from this progress. The only fear is in keeping it hidden, by trying to suppress who you really are, all of your emotions. This is true for whatever age you are. Children come in the early years and are very quickly told to squash negative, or what parents perceive as negative aspects of their personality. And it becomes entrenched very early on that there are certain things that you can do and say and be, and certain things that you just cannot. And then you turn on the news, or you read the newspapers, or you dip into society, because nobody is an island, and this gets reconfirmed. There are things to be proud of. There are things to celebrate. There are things to bring out into the open. There are things to boast about. There are things to be joyful about. And there are things to be hidden that are shameful. These are your words. In the higher realms, there is no judgment. There is no judgment of anything. You are human beings here experiencing what you are meant to experience in any one lifetime. The biggest hurdle to the ascension process on this planet at the moment is the inability and the reluctance to look at the shadow. This is the time to do it. It is safe to do it now. And how much more powerful will it be if more of you do it together? If anything comes up that you are uncomfortable with, a feeling, an emotion, an aspect of your personality, feel as though you are bringing it out into the open for the group. The shadow very rarely wants to act out what it is saying to you. It just wants to be heard. So what is your anger trying to say to you? What is your fear trying to tell you? Sometimes illness can also be aspects where the shadow is trying to block progress. Not always, but this can happen. I'd like you now just to tune into your body and yourself. And I'd like you to recognise how magnificent you are, how many hundreds and hundreds of years of ancestral DNA that you carry, how much emotional DNA you carry, how much hope you carry, how much love you carry. It's easy to think of the positive things. This is normal. I'd like you now to think about yourself. I'd like you to think about aspects of your personality that you don't particularly like. Let me help you recall one of them now. One aspect of your personality or your emotional makeup that you do not like, maybe you don't understand, you're not at peace with. Just bring that up now for healing. And whatever that is, I'd like you now just to look deeper into it and imagine it as an actual living being that is here with us now. So look at anger, for example, in the face and ask it what it wants. What has it got to say to you? Open your ears to hear. What does it say to you now? Is there an aspect of it that is actually trying to help you? Is it trying to protect you? And as you listen to it, you can also communicate back anything that you wish to say to it. Do not view it as different from you or separate from you. It is you, and it wants to be heard and understood. Say to it, I hear you. I hear you. Say to it, I love you. And if you need to, you can say to it, I forgive you. You can also say, I thank you. I thank you for telling me what it is that I need to hear now. And then just feel as your body feels more at peace, having listened to that emotion. Realize there is no threat from talking to it, from listening to it, from getting in touch with it. It is all you. And then just start to feel yourself as a whole being once more, made up of all that you are. And open your eyes. I hope you felt the energy of that, because for me, sitting here, it felt really powerful. I was seeing a lot of colours in my third eye, and I know that there was some powerful energy being transmitted there to you. So even if you've watched this for the first time and haven't quite got it, or maybe thought of something that you wanted to work on, just rewatch that part of the video, because I feel the energy is really, really good there. I'd now like to spray the white white light Archangel Metatron spray, and we'll see what message we have here. There will come a day, hopefully in our lifetime, in your lifetime, when the light will transcend the dark. It doesn't conquer it, it envelops it, it accepts it. And by accepting it, the darkness fades away. There will come a time when this world is no longer dualistic in nature. But until that time, the next part of your ascension journey is to make peace with the dark and the light together. Whenever you see it playing out in your own life, listen to it. Listen to what the light is trying to say to you, and listen to the heavier aspects too. Be conscious as much as you can as you walk your spiritual path. Be conscious when you see the shadow played out in your communities or in the wider world. Each of you has a role here to play if you so choose. It may be that you watch a story on the news, or read something, or hear about something, and rather than going for an immediate gut feeling response, just take a moment, take 30 seconds to step back from it and just look at whoever is being deemed the wrong person or the wrong situation or the wrong emotion. Look at it and listen to its story. You do not absorb any of that. You are protected at all times. But what happens by listening is you dissolve some of the hatred. The light and the dark on this planet is a beautiful thing. And it is why you all came here and have come here in millions over the centuries. In truth, a new species will evolve in time, and the lessons on this planet will be different. There will be different reasons for coming here. But for the moment, the dualistic aspect of your universe is still one of light and dark at play together, the one serving the other. It's about transcending and embracing the shadow, not in conquering it. You do not win anything by fighting or pushing or resisting. To transcend means to merge, to move, to be fluid. To listen. The greatest thing this June that each of us can do. If I had a banner I put across this video now, it would be about listening. Thank you. I hope you found that helpful. I'll be back in a month, maybe sooner, may well be sooner. But for now, I'm going to leave it there. And I wish you a good June. Let me know how you get on with the process of working with your shadow self. As I say, the sprays are there to be used as well. If any of you want to order them, they're online. I also think it's quite nice to maybe put in between the black and white energy another colour. The one I've chosen for today is this one, which is orange. It's the guiding light bottle. I'm just going to end by just spraying that as well and just feeling for a final message from Metatron. It's time to roll up our sleeves and do a bit of work. I know what he means by that. It's time to face some realities and some truths about ourselves. We are only going to evolve and learn and ascend as a race if we look at all of it. And that includes and has to include our shadow side. On that note, I wish you lots of love. Speak soon. Bye.